another episode You Might Want to Sit Down for this podcast. I am your host, Kevin Von Helvet. And as always, this podcast comes to you from the unceded traditional territory of the Coast Salish territory of the Katzie, Kwantlen, Makwi, and Stolo people. If you're not quite sure what I'm talking about there, if you're living in North America and your ancestry on North America does not date back thousands of years, you're not indigenous to this land, pretty good chance you are living on stolen land that was taken away. So least we can do, acknowledge that. And if you're interested, this is pretty cool. I think this goes for both the US and Canada. There's a phone number that you can text your postal code or your zip to 907-731-5085. Put in your postal code or zip or just the city, state you live in. It'll tell you which land you're on. So at least you know and can show that respect. Rocking a pink Fat Records hoodie today. Love the Fat Records, of course. Also love SideOneDummy records. I don't have a hoodie by them yet. My guest today is Joe Sib, co-founder of SideOneDummy Records. Also musician from the band Wax, who back in the day, kick-ass band, 22 Jacks, super band from back in the day, 90s. I think maybe even went into the 2000s, and a stand-up comedian. Joe has been killing it on the comedy scene recently. He's just like, for a while now, Comedy Store regular, Laugh Factory dude, toured with Metallica, like craziness. No disrespect, rocking my fat. This is the only pink shirt I have. And today is, in Canada anyways, Wednesday, February 23rd. It is Pink Shirt Day, which is a day to recognize, or the Anti-Bullying Day, Bullying Awareness Day, which is so important because we are living in a society that is just plagued with bullying, whether it be Trudeau, something about these TR leaders, I don't know. But there's bullying there. We've got protesters here in Canada who took over the border and blocked it off, and part of Ottawa, and we're kind of bullying residents. I'm not saying I'm not with that. I'm not with, some of the cause, but just it's the strategy that's involved. And the cops come in and kick everyone's ass and bully them. And it's like, why the hell, how do we expect young people today we've got to set a better example, us adults, for the young people. I'm not sure if you saw this going around. I saw it on CJ Ramon's social media, and then it's going around like crazy. I had another friend, my friend's mom posted it, but it was a young boy who was bullied and came home and hung himself with his favorite hoodie, and his family found him, and he passed away. And it's just like, come on, this is serious stuff. This bullying, it's not like the 80s Revenge of the Nerds, jokes anymore. I've spoke to young people at their school who have said they've been bullied so much they committed suicide. It didn't work, they're alive, and then they come back to school and they get bullied for not being even good at doing that. They suck at killing. I don't know, where's this disconnect that we could be so cruel to people? I don't know. And I mean, obviously the whole world isn't terrible. There's great things too, and there's great people in it. And us, I'm saying us, us great people like me. No, but I mean, we have a responsibility. We need to lead by example and try to get more love, more compassion, more empathy. I feel like I'm saying this every podcast, and I have to remind myself to do it too. My Instagram got hacked last week, and I was not feeling any compassion or love for those people who did that. If there was a shed somewhere and they I could just press a button at my angriest when I was trying to get my password back and they weren't, and I'd have to think about it, but it's okay, you got to practice what you preach, Kev. You got to try to show the love, but man, it's tough. Because people, we're in tough times. And, but I think the good news is spring is upon us. Longer days, warmer days. It looks like this COVID thing's finally starting to go away. And I was wondering where, imagine that day that comes when we've all been through this together and then like the whole world just hits 0 like cases. Let's have a fucking world party, you know? Let's just crank it up like those New Year's ones that have them in multiple places around the world. Let's have we're done with COVID and let's collectively come together and make this earth a better damn place. Please, please, please. Wouldn't that be wonderful? So people have been through a lot. I'm excited about this episode because it's positive vibes. It's fun, man. Joe Sib, who's on here, I met him a couple of years ago on a punk rock cruise. I won't tell too much about that because we talk about it on this, and I've talked about it lots because it's such a great time. And he's just like the raddest, nicest dude. Like for all the successes he has had, he's just such a down-to-earth, chill guy. And if you're chatting with him, you feel like you're hanging out with your best friend. Just a rad dude. So we talk about music, we talk about life, we talk about comedy, we talk about struggles, we talk about perseverance and just getting through and, you know, like hanging on to that hope, that light, just moving forward and knowing things at their worst, I mean, they can only get better. You know, we've been through tough times before. We'll get through them. We'll get through them now. We'll get through them again. And it's best if we can do it as a team. You know, we're stronger connected than we are divided. So I dig this episode. This episode is like, I watched it, you know, doing the editing, and I'm like, I fucking love this podcast thing. I'm so stoked I'm doing this. I love all the episodes, but it's a lot of work. Sometimes I'm burned out, I'm frazzled. This one, I'm like, yeah, this is why I do this. Got some, playing some music from a band called Parish, who are out of Paris, France. We'll be leading into the episode with them, a song called Violet. They recently signed to SideOneDummy Records. And we'll be rocking out. We'll be closing out with a band called Plasma Canvas, who are, I believe, out of Fort Collins, Colorado. Another SideOneDummy band. They rock. Great band. And just read an amazing quote from, where is it? There. Adrian Ray Ash and Jude McCarran. Those are the folks in this band. And Adrian, the quote is out of Outfront Mag, saying that she dares any homophobes to have a problem with the loudest, gayest band in the world. Plasma Canvas, that's badass. I like that. I like that a lot. So, and we've got a little clip of Joe doing comedy as well, which is fucking rad, from his album Nowhere Near the Top, which you can download, stream, find all over. So yeah, we've got laughs, we got good tunes, we got positive vibes, we got a good chat, and I think that's what we all need right now. We've got some cool episodes coming up. I was been still chatting with the Midwich Cuckoos band out of the UK. I've been talking about a bit in the last couple episodes. Kick-ass band. Was out on my bike today, riding, listening to their soon to be released new full-length album. It kicks ass. It's like Evanescence, but like crank the fuck up. Like it's heavy, it's fat, it's melodic, it's fun, man. It's like honestly epic. I know that word's thrown out a lot, but it's like, it's got these intros that build into the songs, and man, it rocks. Gonna be doing that over Zoom because they're out in the UK. Been trying to do this one for a while, interview with the founding guitarist, lead singer, OG from the band Dayglow Abortions, a staple here in Victoria and Vancouver, British Columbia. Just a wild band who, they're not politically correct, and they're never gonna, I don't think they could get fucking canceled because they've been the Dayglow Abortions singing about farts and dicks and fucking shit for so long that that's just who they are. Murray, I'm gonna pick him up at the ferry over from Vancouver Island, and he's gonna do an in studio, the first one I've had in this place interview. I'm stoked on that. And I think we're gonna have a sleepover party. He's gonna crash on my couch. And I'm a little about that. Like I'm kind of a germaphobe. I'm weird. Like my buddy Garrett, he comes over and he goes like, he runs upstairs to his place and takes a shit. I have a problem with shit. Dayglow Abortion singer Murray has a song from like one of the earliest albums called Arg Fuck My Shit Stinks. So I'm gonna have to choose what we have for dinner wisely, because I really don't want to find out if that was a joke or an actual literal fucking lyrics in that song. And Wee Man, hey man, if you're listening, or if anyone listening knows Wee Man, let them know. Still waiting to hear back, buddy. Got to get you on here. That new Jackass is funny, and I want to talk about that with you and Big Brother and all that stuff. If you're checking this out for the first time, probably Joe brought some people in here to hear this podcast. That's rad. You can find other episodes at www.sitdownforthispodcast.com. This and many other podcasts on the network Comedy Here Often, which is www.comedyhereoften.com. On social media, you can find at Sit Down for This Podcast, and as well as YouTube, Sit Down for This Podcast. Please subscribe, follow, like, share, comment. It helps. I respond to everyone who comments, so reach out. I'm always on that. We can chat about anything you heard on this podcast or another one. All right, I think it's time to kick into this thing. So buckle up, grab a coffee, grab a pint, relax, and just take a moment to enjoy the little things and the conversation that is about to go down between me and the awesome Joe Sid. Enjoy this one, everyone. Thank you so much for listening and watching.
Been a minute, Kev.
Yeah, stoked to see you too, bro.
Last time we saw each other, we were on a boat.
We were in the Caribbean, I believe, or
Yes,
Miami.
we
Yeah, man.
Oh my God. We were on islands. We were on boats. We were in the bowels of a ship.
Yes.
A lot of people drinking. It was fun.
There was a lot of drinking. I could not believe that they had an open bar for the whole. I was pretty lubricated from start to finish.
Yeah. No, man. That was my first cruise I ever went on.
Mine too.
Yeah. I think we talked about that.
Yeah.
It was weird how it all kind of came together. Like I found out, hey, do you want to go on the Flag and Molly cruise? Okay. And then it just kind of all fell into place. I got to say, man, not to do a commercial for Flag and Molly right now, but man, that cruise was awesome. I was so impressed by the way they ran it, the way that, the staff they had on there. And also, like, as much as there was alcohol flowing, I never saw anyone, out of control or not holding their liquor. Like it felt, I'm sure there must've been times somewhere on the ship that was going on, but at the bars or on the decks, I always felt, they were definitely having a good time, but no one was too blurry.
I agree. I never saw anybody even passed out, getting dragged to their room, not even remotely close to any sort of altercation or fight, which you don't really see at punk shows these days anyways. But yeah, man, just friendly vibes. I think because we're older, I think that's, I feel like it's an older, nothing against the 20-year-olds, but I feel like maybe if they had free booze 24/7,
definitely. Whenever you go on any of those cruise parties / tributes to a band, you're definitely, the price point is pricing out all the people that would have been me back in the day. Like, you're like, if Stiff Little Fingers would have had their own cruise and me and my buddies went on it, we would ruin the cruise. The ship would have went down. There's no way that it would have been as together as it was with Flag and Molly. But I feel like with Flag and Molly or any of these cruises that go out, they definitely know how to hook up that price point that keeps out the yahoos,
I agree. And and it is a fair price point too. You got to think, for all things considered, you're seeing amazing bands. You're on an amazing boat. It was a sick boat.
Yeah.
You're going dope places. You're drinking and eating solid food.
Oh, totally.
Not just solid, it's not baby food, but good food, plenty of booze, amazing entertainment, which is how I met you, actually.
I know that was the first time that, we met each other. And then I was out there doing stand-up, and I was also singing for the faction.
Which is sick, man. That must be just like a dream come true that you're singing with like Cav's band, the faction.
Dude, it was such, for me growing up with that band, living in San Jose. I mean, it was enough already that, getting a chance to, I've always been so appreciative and feel so grateful that I got to watch Stevie skate I've watched him his whole career.
Yeah.
And I'm such a fan because I've seen how hard that guy works. And just even when we were kids at the skateboard park, when I first met him before he was Steve Caballero, he had such an incredible work ethic. So when he started a band, you knew, okay, it'll be something that's going to stick. And then the other people in the band, I was friends with, the singer Gavin O'Brien, Ray Stevens was one of growing up in San Jose, Ray Stevens was the guy,
He's such a rad dude.
Yeah. He's such an amazing person. And as a musician growing up, when I was in my first band, he was in a band called Los Olvidados, then he was in the Drunk Engines, and, then he went on to the faction at that point in his career. And I was such a fan for the songwriting that bands like Los Olvidados that Ray was in had. They were, to me, I couldn't even imagine how they wrote songs like that. They had choruses, they had verses, they had intros, they sounded good. So you're starting your first band. And I felt really, as a kid growing up, I wanted, as much as I loved Social Distortion and the Ramones and the Sex Pistols, for me, those early bands that I loved in San Jose, they were at the same level in my head as those bands I just mentioned. Los Olvidados to me was just as a rad as TSOL. I really felt that. And getting a chance, to, with the faction, their whole thing that was so awesome was when they came out doing their thing. No one had really put a record out in my hometown, and their guitar player, Adam Baum, that's
a great punk rock name, by the way.
I know.
That's just perfect.
And if Adam, he would tell you that was totally by plan. He's one of those guys that I remember, he ran they had this record company called I Am Records. And it was, to say it was a record company was basically, it was in his mom's living room. They had a den, and his mom, Mrs. Siegel, she was so cool because as a kid going over there, it was so different to me. I'd go over there and the faction would be rehearsing. And I was like, oh my God, your mom lets you practice here?
Yeah.
And then they would practice. And then in between practicing, there was a little office space. And they were I remember they had this huge map on the wall, and they were putting, all of the places they were going, all these little thumbtacks into the wall. And it was oh my, you guys are going to Sacramento.
Yeah.
You're going to Fresno. I mean, in hindsight, those aren't places that you generally want to go to. No diss to anyone in Sacramento. I love Sac. I love Fresno. California, what up? NorCal, Central Cal. But with all that said, as a kid, I couldn't even believe you're going to go and you're going to load the gear up and go on the road and play music. So I just had such a connection to that band, and, Stevie and Gavin and Keith and Craig Bosch played drums, and of course, Adam and Ray. I was just this is amazing. So I would sit there, and I remember the first tour they went on, seeing them leave to go on the road. It was just so, I want to do that. How do you make that happen? And to see my friends actually go out on the road, play CBGBs. And then they were putting out records, they were putting out 7 inches and full lengths. And they had that momentum, and they were totally inspiring. And as much as, you're inspired by all those bigger bands, the Ramones and the Pistols and the Clash, I was really inspired by the faction. So when Gavin couldn't go and sing, and I got the call from Caballero that he said, we want you to do it, I was so honored. And I was totally taken back. The first call I made though was to Gavin. I was like, hey, are you cool with this? He's like, absolutely. And then Steve was like, you're in, let's do it. And then the funny thing was though, I didn't really a lot of things in my life. I don't really think them out. I go, yeah, it's a rad idea. Let's do it. But I didn't realize. So then as soon as I said, yes, Adam literally sent me 25 songs. And I remember
I was thinking about that, dude. It's because I tried punk rock karaoke, and I'm it's fucking crazy when you think you know the song, but then
don't.
you're up there and you're like, but yeah, dude.
You don't.
Especially if you're in the moment, which you are, like you're performing and you're like,
Totally.
you could just that one little brain fart and you lose your spot. You're fucked and you kill
Totally.
it. Dude.
And the thing that was a trip too is when they sent me the songs, you know, like out of the 25 or whatever it was that I had to learn, like I knew a lot of them, but I didn't know them like I needed to be the singer of the band, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I remember I got the news that I was gonna do it. I want to say it was like, cause I remember when I got the news, I had just finished surfing. I got out of the water and Cab called and he's like, hey man, I got to talk to you about something. I'm like, okay. I want to say that was like, it was like end of summer, like August or something. So I literally every day until we went on the road, I every week I was like, I got to learn a song. And then I made this, I asked those guys, I'm like, look, man, if we're going to do the shows, we got to do the songs in an order. Like we can't, like I want to do them in the order that we're going to play them live. So I made a recorded version of those songs all in the order they wanted to play live without any music. Like I was fully karaokeing, driving around, and what I did was I'd be driving around to go to do comedy shows or having to drive to LA, or anytime I was in the car, man, I always had this CD, or I'm sorry, I always had on my phone the songs, the 25 songs in the order that we would play them all the way up until we played. And I remember because I didn't want to go on stage with any notes. I was like, that'll be weak. I can't stand when people they're like, okay, I'll sing along. And then they're staring at their phone and you're like, dude, you know,
you're not Ozzy Osbourne yet.
Yeah. I'm like, come on, man, you know? But we made it happen and it was fun. And yeah, it was great.
It was rad, man. It was because I'd never seen the Faction and I don't know like how often they toured Vancouver or anything, but I think also I'm 43 almost. So like it was in early 90s. I got into punk and I don't know. I don't know if they were touring.
They were gone.
Yeah.
I
kind of figured
I
so.
think I want to say they're like their last, you know, I don't want to say hurrah, but I remember, you know, like it was like 85, 86. They probably broke up right around there. I remember they broke up on like a Halloween night. I just remember that. You know, and then they all went to do different music. You know, Stevie went on to do a bunch of projects. Ray went on to do a bunch of projects. You know, Adam became a lawyer and started working out of Vegas and crushing it out there. So
that's so funny when punks become like professionals like that. It's awesome.
Oh, Adam was always, but you know what's funny? It's not funny though. It's not funny though when you think of people like, you know, it'd be like if Joe Strummer was still alive and you're like, and he was like, you know, an activist or worked on Senate, you'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. Joe Strummer should be, you know, like, you know, those type of people. You know, there's just people, you know, like when Jello Biafra was going to be mayor of San Francisco, that made sense. You're like, yeah, he's like a political guy. Adam from the Faction becoming an attorney totally made sense because he was a businessman and he knew how to run that label. Like he had such an influence on me when I started my band. You know, I must have.
And your band, is it this Wax you're talking about?
Yeah. When I would say, no, my first band Frontline, like when I was in Frontline, he had a lot to do with the way, like I learned a lot from him as a kid, the way he ran business, the way he toured, you know, we weren't sitting down talking about like spreadsheets. It was more like, all right, when you go out on the road, you get paid, then you put the money in this, you know, this little case, then you stick the case under the front seat of your van. Then you have a lock on that. Okay. You build a loft for the van this way. All the gear goes underneath, you sleep on top. You know, you bring merch on the road, you get the shirts printed here, you sell them for this amount of money. You know, like he was very, very good at that. And for me, that really led to like when I started my first band Frontline, we did all that stuff. And then when I finally left San Jose and moved to LA, when I started Wax, I had like this whole background in being in a DIY band, and the guys in Wax, you know, they'd come from Chicago. They didn't really have that background of being in a DIY band. So the combination of like them being great players and great songwriters, and then me being, you know, a singer in a band, and then also having the DIY background, it just glued, and it worked really well. And we worked really well together.
Dude, I was actually listening to the Wax, I think your second album. I was listening to that just
13 Unlucky Numbers.
Yeah, man, that's a dope. And that too, I kind of somehow I missed that sort of in my heyday. I don't know how, but meeting you, I was like, I gotta check this shit out. And I'm like, it's dope, man. Like I fucking dig it. It's good music.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And you
Yeah,
guys had a good run too, right? Like you were in like Mallrats. You were in that perfect pocket of when punk rock was blowing up, it seems like.
Yeah, no, I mean, for us, when we got signed, it was a different time in music in the sense that when Wax, came out there, Rancid and bands like The Offspring and Green Day, they like that style of music, we were ahead of it, not ahead of it in like those bands didn't exist, because they did. Like we did shows with Rancid. I grew up with Lars and Tim, so like those were my bros. So like when we started Wax, if you look at one of the Rancids, like the Rancids, if you like Rancid was a full, Lars would wear the Wax t-shirt, CJ Ramon would wear the Wax t-shirt in the Ramones videos. So like we definitely had the moment. The thing that just the thing that sucked for us was, so we got, we put our first record out at a time right before that wave of punk rock exploded, right before Offspring, right before Pennywise, right before Rancid, right before all of that. So what ended up happening was when we put our record out, and then we started getting a lot of momentum, and then Green Day happened and all that stuff. When we put our first record out, what was still predominantly what everyone was into was like Pearl Jam, Smashing Pumpkins, like that style of kind of heavier music, so it was like we did Lollapalooza with Pearl Jam and Red Hot Chili Peppers, and at that point in music, we were running around with slick back hair and collared shirts and creepers and pegged Levi's, and that hadn't really popped yet. It was still Eddie Vedder and the flannel and the Seattle sound. So like when we were on Lollapalooza, like people were just looking at us like, we only did 2 shows, but like people were looking at us like, what is this? And we sounded, very small compared to these bands like Soundgarden. That I remember, I'll never forget.
Was that which Lollapalooza was that, by the way? Was that
is it's I want to say, let me see
the
year.
First one, man, because like
let me see, I can tell you right now.
I know I was at the second one, which I believe was like Green Day and Beastie Boys, and that came through my little town of Cloverdale, and we were blown away. I was like 14, but I feel like
I want to say Lollapalooza. Lollapalooza, what year is it? I'll tell you right now. Isn't that great? You can just look like Lollapalooza.
I know anything now, right? Yeah. Like it's so easy, but also dangerous. I go down rabbit holes. I can barely watch a movie these days because someone says something, or a documentary, and I'm like, I look it up and I look that up and I look that up. Like, video's been paused for an hour.
Okay, I'm gonna say that lineups by year. Whoa, they have it. That's pretty rad.
Yeah, man. They have Warped Tour. All those things have that too.
Okay, so lineups. I want to say we were. Let me see. Jane's Addiction. No, it was the second year. So let me see here. It's Red Hot Chili Peppers, Ministry, Ice Cube, Soundgarden. Yeah, so that was the year that we were on.
Nice. That's dope, dude.
Yeah, and we were over on the side stage for one show. We were in like Virginia Beach or like North Carolina or something. We just did one side stage, and we drove up from New York. We were super excited to be a part of it. But the thing is that music was super, super heavy at that point,
Yeah.
And we just didn't, we hadn't, like what we were doing hadn't, like all those bands I mentioned, Green Day and Rancid and all that, they were there. And it kind of sucked for us because we then put out our second record and we make this video with Spike Jonze, and it totally is happening. And then we did the like number one cardinal rule that like every band makes as a mistake is we finally got to the place where it's like, it's happening. And then we broke up, it just totally imploded. And it was such a bummer because then all of our bands that we love, Rancid and Green Day, and, all these bands just blew up. And we were kind of like, I was, that at that point I had started 22 Jacks. So I was already in another band, but you have to be smart to not get so much in your head that you literally, what is it? Cut off your nose to spite your face. Like we totally did that maneuver. We just, I think we had worked so hard that we, instead of just taking a break and saying, hey man, let's not hang out with each other for a month and then come back to this, it just exploded. And then, it all fell apart.
But you're probably pretty young too, right? Like you're like,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
totally.
you guys, you're kids. You're like, fuck, whatever. Yeah.
We'll start
Like,
another band, dude.
yeah,
Just
yeah.
just
We
do
better
another
be
video
better.
with Spike Jones. Slide another guy on fire. Just get, like you
Yeah.
don't see it through.
Yeah.
I was
for
20,
sure.
I was probably 24 at that point, but yeah, it was great though. I loved doing that band. And, that was my thing. I was a singer, if I hadn't, and also if none of those things would have happened, we wouldn't have started SideOneDummy Records or any of that stuff. So it kind of like, I look back at it sometimes, and as much as you're like, oh man, I really wanted this to happen. If it would have went down the way I thought it would have, so many of the things in my life wouldn't have happened. If I wouldn't have got kicked out of my first band in San Jose, I never would have moved to LA. And I remember when I got kicked out of my band, I was heartbroken. I got kicked out of my band, and my girlfriend told me to bail at the same time. And she started dating a dude with like really long hair. And I was so bummed. Like, damn, you're dating a guy in a glam band, and my band just kicked me out. I was so, but if those things hadn't happened, I wouldn't have gotten in my Ford Escort and moved to LA.
And I think that's like valuable life lesson that we learn as time goes on, right? Like when you're young, everything just seems like the end of the world, but then you can look back and go, well, that led me down that path. That led me down that path. That led me down that path.
But I can tell you right now, at this age right now, I'm still learning that, with everything that's going on, whether it's the pandemic or, everything that we're doing, the pandemic or your career or just getting older. I have teenagers now. I have a son 17 and a daughter 20. And, I recently, I got divorced. So it's like, you're like, how did this even happen? And you think, oh man, I'm going to go through life this way, and everything's, if the only thing I can walk away from is it never turns out the way you think it's going to turn out. It does for a little while, but then what ends up happening is you get to these crossroads. But thankfully I can sometimes step back and go, okay, all right, whether it's, the pandemic, which is just such a, oh my gosh, what is this? Changing everything. Everyone is going through anxiety. I've never in my entire life had anxiety, and now that's just a thing. You're like, okay, you got to find the tools to work through that. Thankfully, I'm able to like find those tools and go, okay. And, and have you have a great community of people stuff, but you have to go back through your life and go, oh yeah, you know what? Maybe, obviously I've never dealt with something like this, but I have dealt with struggles, and I've had different things I've had to do. So you know what? I can get through it. And that's the thing, like when I met you, I was like, okay, here's a guy that's in a wheelchair, and, everything that's been thrown in your lap, and you have a positive attitude, and you're like, your energy is still there, and obviously you've had had huge struggles that you're like, dude, you don't even know how dark it's gotten, and, but you were able to pull to yourself and dig within and be one of those people that inspires people, and that to me, I guess that's what we're put on this planet to do.
I think that's a beautiful thing, man. I really think, like we all can learn so much from each other's stories, each other's experiences. And I mean, like going back to where you're talking about the faction and your early punk rock days, you're learning these things like through like verbal, through like they're showing you, you're not studying a book or anything like that, but all these lessons are passed down to you. And then there's people, I'm sure, who are looking at you and are grabbing those lessons. And it's like, maybe that is our purpose, is all to like, help those, bring people up. And like, and I funny you were saying too, like with the kind of going back and going, okay, I made it through that, I'll get through this. I've done some like suicide prevention training, and that's like clinical, whatever you want to call it. Like, that's one of the things people, they train you to do. I don't, is to go like, okay, when was the last time you were in this situation? How did you get through it? What are the steps you've done? And I think that's a good reminder for all people, like when you're going through struggle, like just try to take a moment and step aside and go, okay, fuck, I've been through worse shit than this, or I've been through shit like this. I've been through shit similar to this. I made it through. I can get through this.
I think the thing for me personally, I'm so grateful. I've never had that struggle with that moment where you're like, you know what, I'm going to call it a day. I got the light. This is it. I'm out. I'm grateful that I haven't had that. Now I've had moments where, the struggles in my life have made me get to a point where I'm down and I'm sad, and I just, and I know where I'm just like, I can't even get out of bed today. Like,
Yeah, man.
I have to literally do the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and literally jump out and go, okay. And, I think a lot of that has to do, with some of the issues that, I have with my son, and, his addictions. And that's hard as a father, because him and I are trying to figure it out together. And he's, that I've never had to deal with things like that. So that's been a struggle. But there's times where I go, it gets so dark. And then it's funny because all of a sudden, something will happen, or someone will say something, or I'll see someone, or I'll talk to someone, or I'll get a phone call from someone, or I'll reach out to someone and go, you know what, man, I got to get out of my head. I'm going to reach out to so-and-so, and then all of a sudden that energy that I felt was so real and there, and it was real, it dissipates. And all of a sudden I go, wow, the way I felt 4 hours ago and the way I feel now, I'm so grateful that feeling has come to pass. But that's the big trick, is getting out of your head and really addressing it, being able to go like, this feeling I have right now, is temporary. Like right now, it's
that's
temporary.
so much
I'm
of it.
so sad, whether it's sadness, whether it's depression. And, I never could in the past, I didn't understand those things. And now anyone that deals with that, I don't wish it on my worst enemy. Like I know how dark it can get for people. And the only thing I try to say to someone that, is going through that is like, look, man, like I know right now it doesn't, whatever is said or done, it can't help you, but it's almost like the weather. Like, dude, it's raining. I know. And that sucks. But you remember like a couple of weeks ago, it was sunny, and then all of a sudden it will change. But it's trying to hit home that thing to myself and to someone, that it's all temporary, but sometimes it doesn't feel like that. And that's when you got to reach out to people. You got to reach out. I always say, a buddy of mine said this to me recently. He said, hey man, on your phone, there's 2 buttons, a red button and a green button. And you got to hit that green button, because the green button means you can call someone for support. You can call someone, to talk to. And I think that is, you got to make those calls to reach out to friends and be like, look, man, I'm feeling weird, and, have someone talk you through it. And, thankfully there's people like you that deal with people that are in that mode where they really need to talk to someone.
I'm sure you too, man, because you've just got a rad energy around you too, that I'm sure people reach out to you, probably when they're having tough times, or like you just said, you have it in your mind to know, in your heart, to like reach out to people. And I think right now it's very important. Like, I don't know about you, but every time I'm almost scared to turn on Facebook, which, I mean, for starters, it's a fucking horrible place for a lot of reasons anyway. But almost every time I go on, they're through my turbo Jugend, massive amount of friends who are all punks and in their, 30s, 40s, 50s, even 60s. There's so much, and not just them, but just sort of the age I guess I'm in. And I think it's a lot of the punk rockers. I find there's depression, there's suicide. There's been so many suicides fucking lately within sort of not my immediate circle, but I mean, not too far out, you know what I mean? And it's a dark time for a lot of people, bro. I mean, it's so fucking dark.
I mean, I can't quote you statistics, but I do know that, the rate of, teen suicide and the rate of suicide between young people totally coincides with, the social media
for sure.
world, and it's like, like I said, I'm not an authority on it. I'm only an authority on it in the sense of, as a parent, I'm in the middle of it, dealing with, my ex and I dealing with our situations. And there's so many parents, man, that, whether it's, I've been a member of Al-Anon for the last year, and I'm so grateful for that program, because it gave me a community of other parents and other people that are dealing with that. And you're like, because when you're going through things like that, you're just like, oh my God, I'm the only one dealing with it by myself. And then all of a sudden you go to an Al-Anon meeting, you're like, oh my gosh, these, 100 people, it's like going to a record record convention, you know, you're like, no way, dude, look at this 7-inch and no effects. You like that? Oh, you like this? Oh, cool. But instead it's like everyone just telling stories about, oh my God, so dude, check out what I had to deal with. And oh my God, so did I, dude. And then you're talking about, dude, you ever go to this place? You ever go to that place? Oh, that meeting's cool. You know, and that to me that saved my life. And even during the pandemic, the Zoom Al-Anon meetings that I've been a part of, I love them. I never miss them and I've never met any of the people in real life.
Yeah, that's funny, man.
How crazy is that? Dude, I'm a part of these groups and I talk to them every week. We all, you know, it's a group of people. Sometimes it's 70 people, sometimes it's more. And you're just like sitting there and you're like, oh my gosh, like I know all these faces, but I've never met them. I've never shook their hand. And yet they've gotten me through amazingly tough times and I've been able to help them. So, you know, I think, you know, but I also think maybe that, you know, just a lot of those things are coming to the forefront right now just because, you know, of the times we're living in, you know, and thank God we have those communities.
For sure. And I think, I mean, I noticed being in schools and I've been speaking in schools for probably 18 years now.
Yeah.
And I think too, like we are an authority on somehow in some way on social media because we've actually lived life before it. You know what I mean? Like,
dude, that's the best thing about getting older. I love it. Like people always trip on it. And they're like, you know, I'll be on a show and there's all these young comics and I, you know, a lot of the comics I'm friends with, you know, are in their 30s, you know, or they're, you know, maybe in their 40s, you know, and it's great because being a comic that's my age, I have life experiences, you know, my comedy isn't going to be about, hey, I share an apartment with 3 roommates and we all try to not catch each other having sex with ourselves. Like I don't have that bit, you know, I don't have the bit of, you know, then, oh my God, I feel so old today because I'm 25. Like, you know,
yeah. When you hear that, you're like, oh my God,
okay,
I get it. But I used to say that too. You're like, fuck off.
Yeah. Yeah. That's always the thing where people are like, you know, man, I'm just getting really old. And you're like, oh,
yeah.
How old are you? Oh, I'm 31. You're like, proud 31. Yeah, and then I laugh I laugh when I meet people though. Cause you know, with traveling, you know, I'm always on a plane or something and I'm sitting there and you start talking to the person next to you and they're like, yeah, you know, I've gotten older now, you know, I'm actually, you know, 35, 36. And you look at them and you're like, damn, dude, you looked older. Like, what are you doing to yourself? You know,
no punk rock in their life. I feel like punk rock keeps us looking young, man. Keeps us young at heart.
I think it's what you eat, man.
I believe that too. I'm pretty much a vegan these days. So
I mean,
putting in good things.
For me, you know, I think, you know, I'm grateful that, you know, in my day of, you know, of chaos or whatever, it was just, you know, beers and shots of tequila. I was really fortunate. I never got into drugs. So, and I never smoked, you know, so I was super lucky that like I was able to avoid all that. But I mean, sometimes I run into friends and they're like, hey, what's up? And you want to say, you look great, but you can't. You're like, oh, dude. So, you know, they're like, Joe. And I'm like, wow, what happened, bro? You know, and then you realize, oh yeah, he was, you know, smoking dirt sticks from like the time he was 12 till now. He's just like Marlboros, just boom, boom, you know?
Yes. We don't have to name any names, but I definitely know some people have definitely weathered harder than others.
No, but you know what? And
they tend to be the partiers.
Hey, and you know what, man? You know, I'm so, you know, there's so many of the people I grew up with and they're still with us today, and they, you know, they worked it, you know, and they went for it. And, you know, and a lot of those guys now are sober and stuff, but yeah, man, I mean, I think, I don't know. I think what keeps you young is just, I don't know. Like, I don't, you know, I just try to not really, I know it sounds cliche, but I don't even like really think about my age. I think that's just kind of do what I do.
Yeah.
You know,
just keep going.
I just keep going. You know, like I surfed today, which was great. You know, there's people in the water that were younger than me and there's people in the water older than me.
And there's a person in Canada where it's pissing rain and freezing right now.
Sorry,
jealous of you.
Sorry.
Okay.
You know, but I feel like doing things like that keep me, you know, I feel like my mind, as long as I, you know, and I don't ever want to be, you know, I don't like people that get to an age where they start bagging on young people, you know, like,
no,
they're
never.
like, oh man, these kids today, their music sucks. This, you know, I'm like, dude, when you start talking like that, you just sound so out of touch. You sound so just like all our parents did when we were
Yeah.
kids. I don't want to be that guy. Sure, there's some things I like, some things I don't, but you know what? It's, I also feel like it's their turn, it's not, I had my run.
Yeah.
And now it's up to, I look at my daughter and her friends and what they're doing. I'm like, go for it. Knock yourself out, man. Like,
Yeah.
they're creating, they're making, they're making films, or they're making content for Instagram, and they're doing it. That's their fanzine that we had when we were kids. They're
It
doing the
is.
same thing.
And it's so rad now. Yeah, you can make like an HD skate video edited with
Love
tunes
it.
on your phone, right?
On
Like
your
it's
phone and crush
yeah,
it.
yeah, totally. And actually, you know what, man? But you're facilitating not just your kids, but with like SideOneDummy, you're having younger bands on there too, right? Like
Yeah, I mean, I think with with SideOneDummy,
some younger bands.
yeah, there's that whole element of music, and that
Like-
whole element of people that are, whether it's Plasma Canvas or all these great bands,
Like Pup's pretty young.
yeah,
Like
Pup,
Violent Soho.
yeah, all that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of the catalog you're mentioning right there. A
Yeah.
lot Pup, Pup.
I wrote notes.
Yeah, Pup did 2 records with us. So,
Yeah.
they went on and started their own label, I think. Violent Soho,
Canadians.
amazing out of, Canadians with
Pup.
Violent Soho out of Australia. Bands like Plasma Canvas. I would say though that music to me has always been an important, just such an important thing to have. I feel it's so important for your mental health and your emotions, and to have it. I mean, punk rock saved my life. I know that's another cliche thing to say, but if I didn't have punk rock, I wouldn't have, turned into the person that I am. Obviously
and met all the people too,
Yeah,
right? Like just like it's a community.
Yeah. My day-to-day dealings at SideOneDummy, as everyone knows, I'm on the road doing stand-up comedy, and I don't, I'm not the day-to-day guy that I was, say, 10 years ago. But that's okay too, because I love what I'm doing.
And you've put out some sick shit, man. Like you guys like
Thank you.
Flogamolly and
Yep.
fucking like Gaslight Anthem. I
Yeah.
mean, just Chuck Ragan, just to name a few.
Gogo Bordello.
Yeah, Gogo Bordello.
Yeah.
Fuck, man.
All the Warped Tour comps.
Yeah, I thought that was you guys too, because I remember
Yeah.
having a couple of those. And then what I talked to you last time I was down there right before the pandemic, and you were connecting me with Kevin Lyman, which was cool.
Yeah. Didn't you go over and do an interview?
We didn't follow up. There was just I put out the book and there's a lot going on, but we'll chat after this, and maybe you can give him a little nod, and I'll give him a reach out, because it's probably a good time to talk. And I'm kind of getting more into doing more like work with the youth and stuff. So we should.
Yeah, I love that.
Stuff.
And Kevin, man, I can never. That guy. There's another guy. I don't even know how old.
Something in a name.
Yeah, no, but it's like Kevin Lyman just doesn't stop, and he's always. I mean, he just filmed a pilot, or he's like, I'm going to do a TV show about the Warped Tour, and he just does it. He's a teacher at USC.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
that's so rad.
Yeah, I mean, the guy is, and then on top of all of that, you go to his house, and he's like, hey, check it out. I just this garden I'm growing, or hey, check it out. I'll barbecue for you. And I just made you this amazing meal that, I prepared, and everything, he's just, he's amazing. He's amazing. Hey, I just noticed behind you, is that from SNFU?
Yes, sir. It's Mr. Chai Pig.
Wow. That's so great. So that's Chai Pig right there, right?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. I just saw that, and I was like, wait a minute. I know that face. That's so, who painted that?
My buddy Trev Phillips actually painted it. And,
shout out to Trev Phillips.
I know, he crushed it. He's actually, I seen him the other day. He came out to a comedy show. He lives in Nanaimo. I had a show out there at some Vancouver Island, and he's getting prints done. So if anyone is watching this, or and I know I had Darren Pfeiffer on here recently, he was asking, but working on getting prints of that, because I got the OG, and you're supporting a rad artist.
SNFU, man, they were just, I remember seeing them
fucking
play.
Legends.
Yeah. He was such an amazing frontman. I mean, I'm sure everyone that comes on the show talks about that. I saw them at
It comes up. I was excited that you saw the Turbonegro fucking license plate first. I'm like, everyone always says that, like, is that Chai? And you're like, you saw the license plate. I'm like, cool. That's good. All right.
Yeah. No, man, like SNFU, saw them quite a few times. And I remember he was just one of those kind of guys that just delivered the goods,
When you would have seen, I didn't even end up seeing them till probably my 20s, but you would have seen them, I'm guessing, probably in their like absolute heyday.
Oh, dude, I saw him in, I want to say I
90s.
saw him in, I saw him in the 80s, Fender's Ballroom, saw him in San Francisco. Yeah. I mean, that was SNFU is definitely a staple of that era.
Yeah. Chai was a force, just hanging from the rafters and his costumes and shit. Like he was just an animal.
Went for it.
Yeah. Fuck yeah, dude.
Yeah. I love it.
How's the comedy going anyway? Actually, I watched Coach Shithead today.
Oh my God. That's that little,
I was gonna ask you, is that your son or who is that?
No, that was like a little actor.
Yeah.
We hired to do that. I did that a while ago. It was weird. I filmed 2 of these shorts. I was like, you know what? I want to see if I can film a short. And I teamed up with this director, this kid named Clay, who was awesome. I loved him. And, he was great to work with because he got the performances that we needed, but he also really pushed me to like, hey man, this is something you're writing, so let's just do it. And I was like, okay. And they went well, but it's one of those things where I filmed them and people liked them. And then everyone was like, where are the rest of them? And I was like, I just did 2 of them. Like it needs to be one of those things where I do more.
Yes.
But the Coach Shithead thing was super fun to do. And the kid that was in it, he was super cool,
Yeah, man. It's funny. And you've been doing lots of comedy. It looks like I've just seen through social media. It looks like you're banging them out. You're at the Comedy Store.
Yeah.
Down because you're in San Diego, right?
I'm in San Diego now. Yeah. I left LA about 3 years ago. I left LA just temporarily and then COVID hit and I was like, I ain't going back.
San Diego's pretty dope, man.
San Diego rules, man. I mean, I really love it. I have a great, the people I surf with, and that's amazing. The comedy scene here is amazing. The people here, super cool. I'm close enough to LA that if I want to go there, I can. But when the pandemic hit and everyone started leaving LA, I'd already left. So I was like, why would I go back? And also with the traveling that I do with stand up right now, it just makes it easier. Like I fly out of, I'll fly out of San Diego tomorrow. And then I'll do shows and then I'll come back Monday and then I can hang. And then if I want to do spots around here, I can do spots. And, there's a great comedy scene here. I mean, in San Diego right now, you've got the La Jolla Comedy Store, American Comedy Club, Madhouse Comedy Club, a new place called Drop Mic that's opening up. And then you have all these other booker shows that are in like, a cool restaurant or a wine bar show.
The classic coffee shop.
But there's a lot of
pro-ams and open mics and shit.
There's a lot of them. And I feel like, if a comic's listening, I almost want to be like, yeah, dude, San Diego sucks. You don't want to come here.
Yeah, we're full.
Yeah, we're full.
We got to get you up to Vancouver, dude.
I want to, man.
Yeah.
I've been talking about it and, it always feels like it was like, I felt like, the pandemic had a lot of momentum, came off a lot of cool stuff. Pandemic happened as everyone did. You had to shut it down. And now we're kind of, it came back hard.
Yeah.
And then we were on the road and everything was cool. And now we're kind of, hopefully the numbers stop surging as much as they are. And, we can go out full. Cause I know that like when you go to a show now, there definitely is a vibe of like, there's less people because, people are like, I don't want to get sick. And then there's some people that are like, I'm vaccinated. I feel comfortable going. And it's a strange time.
It is a weird time. Yeah. It's like, there's like, people have never been so divided.
Dude, so much.
It's trippy. But it's cool you're doing like, cause you did a tour with fucking Joey Cape recently.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, that seems like that's a good, like, cause comedy, like my public speaking just got squashed pretty much through the pandemic because big audiences, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But comedy, well, it's one person, audience can be separated. And then acoustic show, same thing. You're not going to have a mosh pit probably at a Joey Cape acoustic show. So that's cool.
You don't know. You don't know there might.
I don't know. I would start it, but like, cause I'm like, everyone's in chairs. This is my fucking opportunity to start a mosh pit.
Bro.
This is fair. But yeah, man, how is that tour?
It was great. Joey and I have known each other since I moved to LA and we were, we've been friends forever. And what ended up happening was, I got a phone call from him when he was releasing his record. And he said, hey man, we're going to do some videos around the release of my record. And he goes, I think it'd be funny if you were in them doing something. And I was like, really? Yeah. I go, wow, that'd be cool. So I went up to Santa Barbara and we filmed these 2 little videos. And while we were doing it, we had so much fun. I mean, it was just like, we never even stopped laughing the entire time. And then after we got done, doing the videos, we started talking and I was like, man, it'd be so fun to come out on the road with you and open. He's like, would you want to? And I was like, absolutely. And then I ended up doing the tour and it was super fun. It was, you know, it was just like, I got to hang out with Joey every day. And him and I are just, we've known each other for so long. It was just so much fun.
Yeah, man, that video, that it was hilarious that you, cause you go wake him up. Isn't he like, in his, and is that, was that his actual parents' house or is?
No. There
was,
no, the first video is I steal his guitar. And then,
oh, I didn't see the first one. I just
never
saw
saw
brought
the
it
first one?
back.
Yeah.
No, okay. I gotta watch that now.
That's why it made sense. So I still,
yeah, I didn't make,
one,
I was like, I don't get this fucking guitar thing, but yeah.
Okay. So the first one is I steal his guitar. And then the second video is I bring it back. And apologize.
That's the one I watched, man. It was funny, dude. And you're like, come on, man, let's go. Let's get psyched, bro. Like,
yeah, let's get signed. Come on.
Yeah,
this sounds like early Jane's Addiction. What's up? Yeah.
That Mr. Saturday Night is the fucking, that's, oh man, that song and video are.
Yeah. That's a great song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys had a blast, dude.
Yeah. You know, we went out on the road together and, you know, it was cool. And, you know, I'm going to do it again in, you know, spring with Lars, you know, Lars Fredrickson from Rancid.
I seen that. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, we've been talking about doing that before the pandemic, and he had reached out to me. And like I said, we went to high school together and I've just known him forever. I was friends with his older brother. I'm going to sneeze.
Yeah, man.
I almost just said, not COVID. We're on a Zoom. So what ended up happening was we rescheduled the tour and Lars was like, and I was kind of tripping out. I'm like, you know, when he first asked me to go, he's just like, I just want you to, you know, do what you do, get up there, you know, you'll do your time and then bring me up. And he's like, we're not going to have a band. We're just going to have you. And I was like, wow.
Yeah,
let's do it. So that should be a lot of fun.
Dude, I love it, man. And I mean, as a comedian and as a punk rock fan, I'm like, I hope more bands do this. Like I've already reached out to a buddy of mine, had him on here, Russian Tim, my last guest. Does a punk festival here in Vancouver. I'm like, yo, man, hook me up. Like, yeah, because they work well. Like you're bringing
it works
together,
well
right?
now. It works well now. I mean, I was doing it when it didn't work well.
Well, you went out with Metallica, dude. Like how did that go?
That was killer. We did I was out. I was part of the opening act with Jim Brewer, and you know, he slayed because he, you know, all of his bits about, you know, AC/DC and the Lars impersonation he can do and the James impersonation. Plus he's just like, he loves Metallica. So that was awesome. And then, you know, I got to do my thing and that was great. And I mean, touring with Metallica, it was one of the most, it was the most surreal experience of my life because, you know, growing up in the Bay Area, you know, I grew up in, you know, San Jose, and Metallica was from San Francisco. And as a kid growing up, you know, we would go to the On Broadway, and across the street from the On Broadway was the Stone. And that's where Metallica, that was the metal club. And we were at the punk club. But like the only two guys that cruised over that we would recognize, you know, because they weren't huge yet, was Lars and James. And they would come over to the On Broadway and they'd like come over to see like this band called Crucifix, or, you know, different bands like that. And, and, you know, that was just a trip, you know, because you're like, oh, cool, the metal guys are here. But to, you know, as they turned into who they became, they were such a band that you rooted for, whether you were a punker or a metalhead, because they definitely crossed the bridge. They definitely combined that whole sound. So for me, you know, and then to see them win the way they did was amazing. But like, as a kid growing up, I never, I mean, I would have loved it. You know, you're like, oh, wow, go on tour. You know, like, will I be in a band? No, you'll be doing comedy. You know, you'll be DJing. I'd be like, what? I don't want to do that. So for me, the chance to go out on the road with Metallica was great. And I'll say, man, they treated us amazingly. It was cool. It was, you know, I don't know how I ever go on a tour again. I mean, it was such the best of the best. And sure, you know, we're on a bus and you're flying everywhere. That was amazing. But what I really took, my biggest takeaway from it was the people that work for Metallica, just how amazing they were. They were just I'm still friends with so many of them. They became a part of my, you know, just of my inner circle. Like they're just my friends, you know, and they've been amazing and just amazing people, which I really got to say, you know, I feel it was just such a reflection of who Metallica is. Like, I feel like, and because of the way I saw them interact with the people that they worked with, that I had to work with, you could tell there was this, I guess that's the reason why a lot of people that work for Metallica, they end up working for them for like, it's like 10 and 15 years or something.
I was going to ask you that. If these guys these guys are like family, they've been with them for
absolutely
many years, right?
Now, like, I'm not going to say the same about the guy that's like wheeling in the case full of cords if he sticks around for 15 years. But I will say that the core group of people that they have around them has been with them for a long time, and they carry themselves in a way that's just amazing.
It just makes sense. I mean, you want to have a fantastic road crew. How are you going to make that happen? Be fucking good to them, right?
Yeah.
And that's rad that the Metallica never got the rock star-itis, because they definitely,
man, people used to, people would ask me what's it like, what's it like with Metallica? And, obviously I wasn't hanging with them like all the time, but like there was definitely an interaction because they'd have to come into our dressing room and talk to Jim, and, and they're bros. So it's like Lars would come in, James would come in. And, it was a trip, because before the show, you got James Hetfield walking around in Levi's in a Motorhead shirt and a cowboy hat and like a pair of boots, and then the only thing that changed before he went on stage was the Motorhead shirt was a black shirt, and then the boots turned black, and he took off the cowboy hat. That was like the only, like, there wasn't some outfit he put on. It was the same guy, Yeah,
that's rad.
And super cool, super humble.
That's sick, man. Yeah.
But still though, menacing. I'm not going to lie to you. And the guy's a big dude, and he just, you look at him and like,
talking about James?
James. Yeah.
He's
tall, and he just has that look. And, I remember there'd be a couple times where like, I'm walking down a hallway and he's there, or like, I remember one night after a show, he was just smoking a cigar, and I was like, we're sitting in front of the bus. They were going off to fly wherever they were, and he was just having a stoke and just talking, and, and you're just like, it's just weird. And you're like, you're looking at him, and it's hard not to be like, dude, fucking, you're James from Metallica. You have to kind of like, you can't do that. I'm sure you kind of glaze over, like, you're just staring at him, but he was so
a Cuban
cool.
cigar.
Yeah. Start talking. Yeah. I love cigars.
Fuck yeah. So that's bad, man. So you're doing comedy. Cool. Yeah, dude. And you're doing lots of comedy right now. That's how long you been doing comedy anyway?
I was trying to figure that out the other day.
You were just saying like it wasn't a plan, right? Like now, because did you say you would have never? Yeah,
never.
So
never.
Were you the guy who like your friends were like, you're fucking funny, go to an open mic?
Yeah, I was that guy. When I moved to LA, I used to hang out in Venice Beach at this house, and my first gig, I worked at a prop house, and my job was to unload trucks, 18-wheelers with a group of other guys, and they were props. So like if it was props like for commercials, like, like, hey, we need books, or, hey, we need glasses, hey, we need pictures, just like, hey, we need furniture. Like, so there would be this, they go to the prop house and they'd say, hey, we're doing a commercial. And a lot of times it was beer commercials, and like Heineken or Grolsch, and they would shoot these commercials, and then the trucks would come back, and my gig was to unload the truck and put away all the stuff in the prop house. And I remember every time the guys would come in, they wanted their trucks emptied really quick. They'd say, hurry up and get done, because there's a present for you at the end of the truck. Like, so you get through all the stuff. And what they do is if you emptied their truck quick enough, they would give you a couple cases of beer. You'd load them in your car, and you're set for the weekend.
Nice.
I just moved to LA. I had no money. I was like 23 years old. So then I remember I would take these beers out to I only knew a couple people. I knew Steve Soto in Orange County, and I knew my two friends, Andrea and George, who lived in Venice Beach. And I would go to their house. I'd get there on like maybe a Friday night and bring all this beer, and then we would just hang out in Venice. And I met so many people back then, that were coming in and out of the house and going down to the beach. And for a long time, everyone thought, oh, you're a comedian. That's cool. And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm trying to start a band. They're like, no, but you're a comedian. I'm like, no. And for a brief moment, I was like, you know what? Maybe I will try stand up. And I remember I went to the Comedy Store and I did a potluck, and I did a set.
You got in?
Yeah, I know.
That's a miracle unto itself.
I know.
Sorry if I just yelled.
But this was like, no, but this was like, this isn't the potluck that's going on now. This was like you know, this would probably be 91, 90. So, I mean, you know, comedy was cool, but it wasn't what it is now.
Yeah, just for anyone listening who doesn't know, like even the Laugh Factory, which is up the road, my buddy Jeff lives across the street.
Yeah.
That's I did the book with, and I went there, and there's people lined up at 1 p.m. I think the show starts at 5 or 6, because the first 4 or something get a spot, and then everyone else goes into a lottery, and you're not guaranteed.
Yeah,
you could spend weeks in that lineup, or just camp out there. Like, it's just to hope you get on that main stage or get on that stage in one of those iconic spots, and hope somebody sees you and goes, that guy or that girl, that person's funny.
Yeah.
So getting into the Comedy Store, that's fucking rad.
Yeah. But it wasn't like that at this point. You know, I just, whoever was working the door, I was like, hey, can I get a spot?
Yeah.
But I didn't get bit by it though. It was weird. I still wanted to be a singer in a band. I didn't get bit by it. I was like, you know what? It's cool. Like, it really wasn't my thing. So I didn't start comedy until much later. And you know, I was doing radio, and, you know, I was trying to figure out like what my next move was. I couldn't start a band. Everyone that I knew that was in a band, they played guitar, and they were like doing acoustic stuff, like Joey from Lagwagon or Chuck. And I was like, yeah, that's not me. What am I going to do? And a lot of people were like, you have these funny stories. You do this, you do that. You should do something with that. And that was kind of how it all started. I wrote this one-man show called California Calling, and I did that for about 2 years. And then I went from that into doing stand-up. And I kind of, you know, when I say like when I started, I kind of bleed the storytelling into the stand-up. But if I was to say like just focusing 100% on stand-up, it would be the last, like, I'm like 11 or 12. I think I'm starting my 12th year right now. So
nice.
I'm just doing stand-up. And when I say 12 years, that's like, that's stand-up every single week, you know, of starting out with like 1 spot a week to going to 2 spots to finally getting weekends, and then all of a sudden getting asked to feature, and then all of a sudden asking to go on the road, and then someone saying, hey, can you do this? So it's been a very, you know, for anyone that does stand-up, it's definitely, you have to grind a long time, as you know, and
it is a process. Yeah,
it's such a process.
And it's like, I know me, I'm 5 years in, and I'm telling jokes that are like, that came up with some of my best jokes are still jokes that came up in my first year.
Yeah.
Which I think is probably a lot of the challenges, you know, the first shit you come up, amazing. Totally. But still building on those. And like, my family comes out a lot, and my sister's boyfriend, Zach, he's like, I really love just watching the comics, because you will see them, and then that bit's a little bit longer, and then you tweak it and you put this, and you can't do that at home. You have to do that on stage
in front of people.
Yeah. So it takes time to figure out what works, what doesn't work, to find your voice.
Totally.
Which I find now, about 5 years, I'm finding kind of where my voice is at and what
it takes a while, man. I would say, you know, I mean, I don't even know if I've found my voice yet. I mean, I know that.
I think it's good to like always be searching that too, because you want to be better and you want to change.
I mean, look at, you know, not to bring up, you know, Bob Saget passing away, but
I was going to ask you about Bob. Actually.
You know, I never worked with Bob, and I knew who he was. Obviously I'd seen him. Obviously he was one of those guys that, you know, would pop in on a show that you're on. You're like, no way, Bob Saget's here. I never had any interaction with him or anything, but what I loved was reading his last post on Instagram about, he was so excited to be out on the road. He had shows, and he was saying, man, I feel like I'm 26 again, and I'm finding my new voice. And then he died that night. And to me, I was like, that right there is the journey. I mean, here's a guy, 65 years old. And, you know, to everyone that's listening, that's young, they're like, yeah, dude, he should have died like 5 years earlier. And like, no, 65 is nothing, you know? The thing that I feel about him was, he was still in that creative process, even after all of the success he had with, you know, his television shows, his sitcom, everything. And I mean, that right there says a lot. That's the thing, you know, it's weird with stand-up comedy. You know, as much as I love it, sometimes I almost wish I hadn't gotten into it, because it really messes with your brain and your mind and
confidence.
I mean, I don't know about the confidence thing, but for me, it's just like, you know, you're always trying to you know, you know, you're trying to get this one bit done, and then you need to get up in front of people. And the next thing you know, you find yourself at a sandwich shop and on a Tuesday that now it also is a comedy show, and you're there at 10 o'clock at night in front of 4 people trying to get a laugh from these people because you just switched the words "and" and "or" around, and you're so excited to hear. And then you get the laugh, and then you get in your car and you drive 2 hours home, just saying to yourself and playing it back, oh my God, it worked. And then you get into your house and, you know, you go to bed, and then you're like the next morning, where can I go to tell this joke again? And then, you know, it's just this ongoing creative process, which is great, but it's also, it's tough sometimes because you're just like, oh my God, I'm just thinking about it all the time. You really have to give yourself a break.
It's hard to take a break. I know right now my brain, because everything kind of, all the shows started canceling after COVID kind of got shitty here the last couple of weeks, like right around New Year's or whatever. And I was doing like 6 shows a week. I was just pounding them out more than I had. And I was just like, my brain was going, and I was writing so much shit, and just like, I was so in the fucking pocket. And now I'm feeling kind of removed from it, which is good. Like, because it's nice to take a break, but at the same time, you don't want to take a break. You want to always be thinking about it. And it's like, you're always trying to find material. And it is like, it's pretty much your life. You live it all the time. I don't know, as a musician, are you sitting in the fucking bank writing a fucking jingle in your head, you know, a guitar riff or lyrics? I don't know. But anywhere you're going as a comedian, you're kind of like, you're taking notes like, well, that was kind of funny. That was a weird experience. That person said this or like that happened. And it's like, you're just always like, taking, I know for me, I'm always taking notes in my phone.
Yeah. I write the stuff. I actually write it down. For some reason, I feel like I have to write it with a pen. So it goes from my head through my body. If I write it in my phone, I don't know if it, but I do find stuff in my phone that I do think is funny. That I'm like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. But then I always write it down. It's definitely a process that I feel is so different from anything else. Whether you're playing music, you can play music alone. You can get it in a place that, you know, can be presentable to an audience. Whereas with comedy, you literally need to have someone in front of you. You know, but I will say this, a lot of times I do writing with a few different comics, and we'll throw Zoom up and we just start throwing ideas back and forth. And if I can get a laugh from a comic, even through Zoom, I'm like, okay, that can work. And I'll write it down and then I'll try it on stage. That's
the best. If you're like, as much as open mics, I find are painful because you're often in front of the same comics.
Oh, dude, they're so painful.
Yeah. But when you get a laugh from just comics, you're like, oh yeah, fuck yeah. Because they're not there to really laugh. They're not there to be entertained.
Well, yeah, they're there to get up themselves and
do their shit. Yeah. But I find, like you were saying, like I put notes in my phone, but then before the show, I always write on I have my little book, and I write it all out. And it's like, no matter, I just always write out my set, and I'll go over and rip out that page and do it again, rip out that page, do it again. I love it. That's the process, man.
I love it.
And I gotta say, dude, just kind of going back, and I'll let you go pretty soon here because we're hitting about an hour, but fucking, that was just really cool of you on the cruise. So we're on the Flog and Molly cruise going back. You just finished your show with Faction. I know you're doing comedy. Part of me is like, I want to ask this dude if I could do comedy. Part of me is like, don't fucking bug him right now. He just sang with like fucking Faction. And I just came up to you. I was like, yo, man, like, and I think, how's it going, dude? I was like, yo, like, you're doing comedy. You're like, you a comedian? You want to do 10 minutes? And I'm like, fuck yeah. I'm like, dude, rad. You did it for me. I'm in. And that was one of my funnest experiences, if not the funnest. I can't think of anything better.
Night. You killed that night.
I had so much fun, man.
Yeah, like, you did great too.
Thank you, bro.
But you know, it's like, I mean, dude, it's a weird, you know, if you once you know, when you've been doing when you've been doing comedy and you've been doing it for a long period of time, you don't even ask a person if they're comic. You can just see the look in their eye as they're walking up to you with this look of like, I'm a comic, you're a comic, we're in this special little group together. Is there you know, and as a comic, whether you're the headliner or whether you're the, you know, if you're the headliner, there's no way you become a headliner unless you know that, you know, giving a 10-minute spot to someone is the reason you become a headliner. Because, you know, I mean, dude, if you know, if Jim Brewer didn't let me feature for him, if, you know, Eric Griffin, I remember Eric Griffin took me out my first time years ago. He didn't take me that much more afterwards because I think I grinded him with too many questions. I was like, dude, what about this? What about that? And he was like, dude, I just want to go to lunch. Like, I mean, I didn't know I don't want to be your mentor, bro. You know, I was like, okay, you know, but like guys like that, they threw me, oh my gosh, them throwing me time like that. It was so nice. So, and I remember Ari Shafir, he said something once, and I was at a Christmas party at the Laugh Factory.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're all sitting there, and someone was talking about getting time on stage. And they asked Ari, hey man, do you want to do time? He's like, yeah. And then I said to him, I go, wow, you know, you're gonna do time right now. And I thought, you know, 2 minutes ago, you were just like, I'm just going to kick it at the party. I'm not going to do time tonight. I'm just going to do this party and get out of here. He's like, no, man. He goes, I'm a comic. If someone's offering me time, I'm doing it. And I was like, wow, man, that is the difference between a musician and a comedian. Cause you know, as a musician, if someone's like, hey, dude, will you come up and sing? You're like, nah, it's cool. You know, I don't have the band or whatever. Yeah. But as a comic, someone's like, hey man, you want to do 10? You're like, okay.
Yeah.
You know, unless like you're drunk or something, you know,
or unless they're like, hey, tell me a joke. You're a comedian. Tell me a joke. Like I tell stories, not, it's not going to work. Yeah. Fuck yeah, dude.
Well, I'm glad you did that. I'm glad that you asked. I'm glad we became friends. I'm so happy we finally did the podcast. I know we've been talking about it forever, you know, and Kev, I really appreciate you having me on, and I love all the stuff that you do. You know, like when you were talking about, you know, you're kind of downplaying like a lot of the speaking engagements you do, and you know your book, the suicide work that you're doing. I mean, dude, that is the real amazing, you know, work right there. Yeah, and it's inspiring, and it really makes a difference in this world. That's the type of stuff we need more of.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate that, man. And I appreciate you. I appreciate your energy, that opportunity, and just being a friend, man. Being you.
Let's do more shows. You know, let's figure it out. Are you going on the cruise this year?
I'm not sure. I don't even know if it's going to happen.
I know. Is it?
Yeah, I don't know. I've got I have tickets to see Guns N' Roses in Turbonegro in Norway.
Wow.
And I think if I'm going to do one thing this year, that's probably going to be it.
Okay.
So I think we'll see. I'd love to do the cruise too. I actually set it up so I'm in Florida when it goes down, like speaking, but things are just so up in the air right now. It's going to be a last minute call. If I can, dude, I'm in. Yeah. It's sold out, but I'll try to find my way on it. I got my own fucking chair. I'll just sleep in that, you know?
Oh my God.
Are you going?
I don't need a ticket. I got a chair.
Yeah. Good right here. Are you going?
No, you know what? I'm not doing it this year. Matt Hensley and I were talking about it, and you know, it was one of those kind of things where they were going back and forth so much. I think, you know, it was like, I mean, that's the one thing they're like, you know, no offense, we need to lock down the bands before we worry about who's telling jokes, you know, like, yeah. So it just kind of turned into that where it just didn't happen. But, you know, I love doing that cruise. I really hope I can come back and do it again, because I just had such a blast the 2 sets I did, and it was super fun being out there.
Dude, it was one of the best times of my life.
Yeah. Well, dude, man, have a great, you know, rest of the, your day and stuff, but thank you so much for having me, man. I really enjoyed it. I'm glad we finally did. How long have we been talking about doing this?
It's been a while. It's probably been maybe 6 months or so, 4 months. Yeah. I don't like tormenting people though. So I kind of send it out. And then if I get a I'll be like, when, and then if I don't hear anything, I'm like, I don't bug people.
Yeah. Well, so you caught me on the right time to do it today.
And that's what I know. And I'm glad you were like, yo, I woke up today. I got a message. You're like, let's do it today. I'm like, done. Boom.
Yeah.
Sick. Okay.
Love it.
All right, man. Thank you, Joe Sib. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for your time, your wisdom,
absolutely, brother,
your words, and just being a solid dude, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I will catch up with you soon, Kev.
Sounds good, brother.
All right, bro.
Take care.
Are we bailing?
We're bailing.
Is it going right now? Am I leaving?
Yeah. See you later. Alrighty, that wraps things up with this episode with Joe Sib. I wasn't lying, right? Like, just don't you feel rad? Wasn't that like super good, positive vibes? Oh, fuck, I love that dude. So thanks, Joe, for doing that. We're gonna close this out with some comedy from Joe. So more laughs to come. And then finally with a rockin' tune by a band called Plasma Canvas. So that's how we'll close this out. And be sure to check out Joe's website, joesib.com, for tour dates. He's got shows coming up in Florida with Jim Brewer. He's also got, which in like February, March, and then March, April, he's fucking doing shows with Lars Fredriksson from Rancid and all of his other bands that Lars is in. Yeah, and then shows other than that as well. So go check him out live if you get a chance when he comes to your town or somewhere nearby. All right, everybody, have a great day, and we will talk to you. See you soon.
I was never good with authority, and now I am the authority, and I'm not good at it. You know, I wanted to do other things in my life, you guys. Like, this is the best it's gonna be for me. I'm okay with that. I wanted to be a doctor when I was a kid. But you can't be a doctor when your vocabulary only consists of dude and bro and awesome and I'm stoked. Hey, have you read anything? Yeah, Thrasher Magazine and Surfer. Like, that's not doctor material right there. Could you imagine if I was your doctor? Think about it. You show up for the test results and I'm in there, dressed in black. That's a bad sign. Hey, dude, what's up, bro? Yeah, man, I got your test results. They're not rad. I don't want to be a stoke extinguisher, bro, but that spot on your lung is gnarly right there. So gnarly, man. But check it out. We're going to crush it with chemo, and you'll still make it to Coachella in April. Fist pump. You don't want a doctor like that.
I hope you call me again at 2 a.m. so I can write another stupid song about it. I don't know what I'm doing, but I wish it was you. 'Cause I'm in such a fucked up state, and I don't wanna be the things you hate. So I'm playing chess with my dreams and hoping they come true. Well, I got a new place to crash, and I think I'm bouncing back. I think I might just have me figured out. So if you wanna try something new, then I can finally make my move and melt into the yes that leaves your mouth. So I can hear you call me on my shit. I don't know what I'm doing, but I wish it was you. Ain't doing this for no one else, but I won't lie and say you did it.